can advertise your business on Night Dreams Talk Radio, and you will be heard worldwide. Why not contact us at nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com. The views, opinions, and representations expressed on the Night Dreams Talk Radio Network and its website are those of the hosts, guests, and participants, and are not necessarily those of or endorsed by the network, its affiliated stations and broadcasts, the management, other hosts, or advertisers of the network. The shows found on the Night Dreams Talk Radio Network can, but do not necessarily, promote any particular lifestyle, belief, religion, political affiliation, or other personal practice. These shows are for entertainment purposes only, and are not intended to treat, diagnose, and or claim any cure of disease or condition, or give any medical or legal advice. Eric Cooper, S4 Radio, on Night Dreams Talk Radio Network, gets deep into the paranormal.
Oh, yes, we do. So good evening or morning, depending where you are, and welcome to S4, the voice of Force Movement Paranormal, coming to you live from the FMP headquarters in the heart of the Cascade Mountains in Concrete, Washington. FMP is a highly active emergency response team for all aspects of the paranormal, from aggressive hauntings to alien interaction, Bigfoot, and other cryptids, and everything in between is terrifying. So S4 is the voice where we discuss these things in detail. Not only can you find S4 right here on Night Dreams Talk Radio, but for our local listeners, KSVU 90.1 FM also plays us pre-recorded shows from 10 to 12 p.m. every Saturday. So, tonight, it's already February 2nd, and tonight we'll start our Haunting and Entity Month. We're discussing tonight what constitutes a haunting and what types of entities are out there, from poltergeists to doppelgangers to shadows to orbs to, well, spirits, because there's a plethora of spirits. Next week, we'll be talking, actually next week, just as a reminder for those that don't know yet, we'll be starting the show at 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. because we listened to our listeners, and our listeners requested that we go 3 hours because they just love hearing us talk about everything under the sun. So next week, we'll be discussing haunted items. Can things be possessed, and how do you keep your home protected from these things? So we'll be delving into the paranormal protection as well. So tonight on the show we have Cole Wegleitner, our FMP Lore and Culture Research Specialist and owner of Statement of Sound DJ Services, Brent Dodge, FMP Astral Team, Megan Gehring, our Astral Team and FMP Security, and Michael Hall, our paranormal lawyer and founder of UFOI Team. So how's everyone doing tonight?
Perfect.
Really fantastic.
Awesome.
Great.
Awesome.
Really good.
So, Megan,
how are you doing, Coop?
I'm doing good. Can't complain.
Good.
So how was our trip to Vegas? Did we see any UFOs?
I looked. I was 3 hours away from Area 51. I wanted to go, but, dang food poisoning got the better of me, and we had to scrap that on the last day. But, I actually had to take 4 flights to get there, 2 back, and I looked the whole time. I had the window seat, so my face was literally glued to the window. I looked, and nothing.
Damn.
I know.
That's too bad.
I was disappointed, to say the least.
Oh, I got to throw in, too, for our local listeners, because I know we do have a few locals that listen live. But February 16th, we are actually talking paranormal issues upriver, eastern Skagit, and we'll hit Darrington, too. So eastern Snohomish as well. That way we can cover UFOs, Bigfoot, hauntings, focused solely right here in eastern Snohomish and Skagit counties. So that's going to be fun. We'll talk about Devil's Tower. We'll talk about concrete. We'll talk about Bigfoot, UFO sightings, and Keith, you're going to have a blast on that one, because you've been to concrete. And Keith got dropped. We'll have to get him back in. I hate Skype sometimes. We'll get him in for hour 2. So, talking about entities, and what are some of the signs and symptoms that y'all can just think off the top of your head when someone calls, what are the complaints that make us think it might be a haunting? Let's start right there. Scratches. Yeah. But I like looking at the mundane because I don't like jumping on everything's... What else can cause scratches? Cats. Your sleeping partner. And I get a kick out of that because I have to do a sleep study next month. And I had to fill out this long questionnaire about my sleeping habits. Or lack of.
Oh.
And one of the questions is, do you have a sleeping partner? And how often does your sleeping partner sleep with you? I'm like, seriously? And I look at this doctor, I'm like, so sleeping partner, are you referring to my mate, my wife, and what do you mean, how often do we sleep together? I guess I'm just normal, but my wife and I, we sleep in the same bed every night. But yeah, it's like interesting questionnaire. But so yes, your sleeping partner. If you have kids and your kids jump in mommy and daddy's bed, you got to look at what else could be causing scratches. If it's only scratches, then it could be something mundane. So what about door knocks? What about creaking? What about voices? What about electronic phenomena, anomalies? These are things that we look for. We've had complaints of lights going on and off. Is that always going to be something paranormal?
Not always. Not lights.
No, it's probably going to come around with 5G.
Probably. So if you have lights going on and off, we always look at the wiring. Same with EMF.
Yep.
You have all these paranormal teams that they run through. And, I've made this mistake before. Your cell phone can trigger your EMF meter. I've had it happen.
Yep.
On a Bigfoot hunt of all things. I was like, oh my God, Bigfoot trips the EMF meter in the middle of the mountains. And then my cell phone vibrated. It was like, oh, that's right. Darn it. So yeah, you've got to rule out everything before you just jump on paranormal.
Yep.
Door knocks. Door knocks, I've got to say, unless you're being pranked, is a hard one to discredit. Would you guys agree?
Especially if it's a door that's not leading outside.
Where are the kids? Oh, the kids.
Well, no, like if you're alone in your house and you hear someone knocking on the other side of a closet.
Right.
Right next to you.
Yeah, that's why I was saying that one's a little bit hard to discredit, especially if it's coming from the closet.
Getting pushed by nothing.
Right.
That's another one.
That's another one. So let's talk about the first thing. Anytime you say paranormal, the first thing anyone jumps on is Ghostbusters or Ghost Adventures. Or, yeah, Jason Hotop is in the chat room. He says, especially if there's no door. Yeah.
No.
Oh, I gotta give a quick shout out too, because I was checking our geographical listeners for S4, and we have Honduras and South Africa. So if you're in Honduras or South Africa, hey, welcome to S4. I gotta say, I think that's cool.
Hey, if there's no door, how'd you get in the room?
Well,
Through
look
the
at
doorway.
You've got to look at the history of the house. Was there a door there at one point?
Or it flew through the roof.
A door or a room without doors is just a box. That's all I'm saying.
This is true. So, let's talk about spirits here. And I can see Skype is going to be an issue tonight. So first of all, what attracts paranormal activity?
People
Negativity, depression.
Okay, I want to get specific because basically I'm going down my notes from our EMS and first responders training because it covers all everything we're talking about tonight. So first of all, violent crime, domestic violence, things of that nature. If there's any kind of, like you said, Brent, negativity, is an attractor for paranormal, for malevolent entities specifically. When you're talking spirits, and was it last week we were talking? I think it was with Keys too, actually, where if somebody dies in a car wreck, for example, their spirit's stuck. But it also does not always mean that they're stuck at the car scene or at the car wreck.
Yeah.
They're going to go home. Because in many of those cases, they don't realize that they've died. So, they step out of the car and, I'm going home. And they're home. And then, well, you have a haunting. So, we got any input here?
About the
I
situation.
I have a question.
What's that?
Well, so if they don't know that they've died, that can go on for quite a while, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Until they get crossed over.
So, do they follow their normal routine that they would have before they died? Like, do they go to work?
They could.
Sometimes they do. Sometimes they do. But so and that goes along with what we're about to talk about as well, because you do have residual hauntings, and those ones. So the difference between a residual haunting and an active spirit is intelligence. With a residual haunting, it's kind of like a record player gets played over and over again. And with residual hauntings, you'll actually find, if you look at patterns, you'll find it's most active at a certain time of day. It's active on a certain time of the month because that's when they died. Things of that nature. And those, you won't get an EVP off that because there's not an actual spirit there. It's just residual energy.
Not actually haunting.
And then you have the spirits that passed and they're stuck. And those are usually someone that died from a violent crime, somebody that died before they were meant to. Let's see what else. Sometimes if there's unfinished business, they're stuck here. And if it's a spirit that's here because of unfinished business, those are the ones that mediums are going to connect with the most because they want the medium to help them recover. Whether it's to find their body, whether it's to leave a message for a loved one, things of that nature. And, Megan can tell you about that one a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
The Mount Baker case.
Yeah, no, I connected with one of the lost snowboarders up on Mount Baker, and he was very, very, very clear that him and his friend were still up there. And the friend never came through. It was just one of them, but he knew his dad was up there every single chance he got, usually on the weekends during the summer, and he was not going to stop until the boys were found. And back in September, they were both found, and they were pretty much in the same area that I had said, and in the same manner in which he had showed me, because he was very specific, saying that they were not together, and he told me the manner in which the accident occurred, and it was very evident once the bodies were recovered. And I just couldn't believe it because I was still pretty new to astro, and that was just pure validation for me that there is something with astral and the information that we could get. But it wasn't me. I was just taking the information that I was receiving from him because he was so communicative, and basically he wanted to be found, and he was found first. So, I mean, it made my heart so happy that the information was correct. I received it correctly, and then I relayed it correctly. So, very, very happy to have a part in that.
And that's a prime example of a spirit that sticks around until there's closure, basically, for the spirit. And not only did he stay until he was found, but he wouldn't leave until his friend was found as well, because they found his body first. And that's a specific case of a spirit that doesn't want to pass, and he was perfectly willing to pass once they were found. And that's common. That's very common. Oftentimes we get called into a case, and you hear me, I sound like a broken record sometimes because I always refer to the movie The Others. Prime example. Someone that died doesn't know they're dead, and they're actually not intruding on your home. You're intruding on theirs, and they're kind of confused why there's strangers walking around their house. And once the team goes in, makes communication, two things can happen. One, they will willingly pass over. Or two, you can mediate between the spirit and the client. And once they understand that they're freaking people out, they will agree to stop. And the client oftentimes is okay with them staying there. So, it's a perfect case of mediation between the two. And I want to clarify, too, with our team, because I got asked, I guess 2 years ago now, how dare we be the judge, the jury, and the executioner when it comes to entities? Well, we are and we aren't, because we don't go running in guns blazing. We try to find the root of the problem, whether it's a confused spirit, a confused troll in one case, or a group of trolls that somehow got into our plane and were wreaking havoc, but they were just confused as to why they were here as we were as to why they were here. And once the door was open, they got sent back home. We'd sealed the door and they were gone. But we don't go running in just to kill whatever entity is causing problems. We try to find the root. We try to mediate. If mediation isn't an answer, then we send them back where they came from. That's just the bottom line. So, are we the judge of the jury and executioner? Sometimes we can be, when it comes to human safety. So, what else was spirits? When somebody dies, if they were a jerk when they were alive, most of the time they are a jerk while they are living. Or, I said that backwards. When they were a jerk when they were alive, they're a jerk as a spirit. There we go. Yeah. I'm just watching Skype. Skype's being a pain. So, in essence, you've got what appears to be a malevolent entity. Oftentimes can be just a very ornery spirit. Would you guys agree?
Absolutely.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
Well, it irritates because just because you have scratches, you hear it all the time. Oh my God, I got scratched. It's a demon. No. No. Not even malevolent entities are demons. Demons are highly rare. True demonic activity is highly rare. I'll say within FMP we might have 3 demonic cases a year. Now, some people will say, well, I've been a demonologist for 40 years and only encountered one honestly. Well, and that's true. But if you look at the caseload that we do, which is 3 to 4, sometimes 5 cases a day, which we won't go into what we're dealing with right now, times 365 days a year, that is still a very low number.
Hi, Cooper. Can I interrupt you?
Yeah, go ahead.
In my little more than a year, around a year and a half, whatever I've been in here, I've actually not dealt with one demon.
That's because Tony deals with them. But
Yeah, I was thinking the same, Brent, you're lucky. Yeah.
So, in all fairness, Tony is usually the one that we call in for if we sense that it might be a demonic case. We'll send Tony in for safety purposes. And you know, let's talk about this for a second, because that getting attacked by an old timer really irks me too, because I got accused basically of not caring about people getting put into danger, and that's annoying. So I want to clarify.
Yeah.
FMP takes pride in making sure this team is safe.
Mm-hmm.
And so the whole question got brought up because of our project we're working on, which is going to be an alert system. And we're going to require teams outside of FMP to go respond to those. Now, when it comes to their safety, anyone that's in the paranormal for emergency response and not for evidence collection, I would think knows the risks involved. And if they don't, then we will educate them quite rapidly that there are risks involved, and we'll go into some of those risks tonight. In fact, if you haven't seen some of the risks by now, you will by the end of the show. At least with the spirit and entity side. Now, Jason's got a question. Is our caseload increasing? No, not really. We took a break in December, so we're actually getting back to our normal flow right now. But, on an average year, we're averaging, I think at a high point, we are averaging about 5 to 10 a day. So like I was telling, I believe, Cole earlier tonight, because he was like, oh my God, you guys are busy. Well, yeah, but this is normal, because I've had days where we would be working on 5 cases, and we have 5 more that come in at one time. And that's where the triage system comes in handy. So what constitutes a paranormal emergency? We have 3 tiers. Tier 1 is any case involving children and pregnant women. And pregnant women is in that category because, 1, you're already under stress being pregnant, so you don't need paranormal activity increasing that stress. And 2, there are entities out there that are after souls, so you don't want the risk of a fetus being miscarried because its soul was taken at a certain point in pregnancy anyway. So tier 2 is where you have scratches, you have physical damage, somebody got pushed down the stairs, somebody got pushed, and psychiatric trauma fits into that category as well. If it's a highly fearful, it's a terrifying case, then that's one we'll jump into with tier 2. And we only jump into the tier system when we get multiple cases at one point. You guys are too quiet tonight. Usually we're talking over each other.
Just listening to you.
Well,
Michael, you're quiet. What do you got to say?
Well, I tell you, I was very interested when you were talking about the ghosts that were, anxious or waiting around to be found or trying to bring information to others, because there's a fascinating report that I've run across as the paranormal lawyer, that makes me give pause to the whole idea of ghosts being able to communicate with the living and guide them along on certain specific cases. There was this is with the Western District of Pennsylvania. There was a court case in the early 1900s where a young ghost, a female ghost, led people to enough evidence to convict an actual murderer of her crime. And this is the interesting case. If we've got another minute, I'll go through it and explain what happened. This is the very first case where an actual ghost was given credit, basically, for solving a mystery and convicting someone of murder. Mm-hmm. This young woman's mother swears that she had her daughter come to her as a spirit. Didn't scare her, but she was alarmed that her daughter was there, trying to communicate with her. And the daughter told her exactly how she was killed, by who, and in what way she was killed. And, of course, at the time, the mother was considered crazy, and no one took her seriously, except there were a couple of investigators back then that followed up on some clues, because she was the young woman was murdered in a specific way and in a specific location and time. And sure enough, they followed the directions that the mother gave. This is a mother giving testimony on the witness stand during the trial, by the way, because he was a suspect at the point. And basically, when they found out the information was true and correct, and all the strange details were confirmed of her death and all of that, the jury convicted this person of first-degree murder, and that was the very first case that a ghost was given credit for testimony from an actual person, her mother, in a trial.
That actually, that actually reminds me of a case that we had Megan on, very similar, and I'll let Megan tell more about that one. I don't know what the final outcome of that case was, but we actually gave the paranormal investigator team enough confirmation of evidence, going in blind, by the way, that they took that to the family. What the family did with it, I don't know. We don't find out the outcomes of some of our cases just because of that, when there's other teams involved. But go ahead, Megan.
Yeah, no, from my understanding, it was actually going to be brought up to law enforcement in this situation. I was asked to do a cold case from 1973, and I was able to look at it astrally, and I saw the murderer's face, and I was so shocked because it was clear as day to me, and sitting here for like 2 days trying to figure out how do I actually send a sketch of this perpetrator's face to this woman who's asking me for help, knowing, because I got indications that this man is still alive. He not only committed this triple homicide in question back in 1973 in Ohio, but he had committed another, and he was pretty much, the indications were he's living scot-free. He is approaching 70 years old, and he has family in the area that the murders had occurred. And it was so accurate, and mind you, we went in blind, like Eric said. I had no information given to me. However, the woman that I reported back to, she had a photograph, and it matched identically. His nose, his hairline, his eyes, the pointiness of his chin. I got the initial R and N that popped up, and she confirmed that that was his name. I was floored, and I was like, I can't do this anymore. It's too crazy, Right. But I'm talking about a cold case murder. A business owner, a client, and her young daughter were murdered, brutalized for no good reason. It was a small theft, a couple $100, and the guy got away. There was not a single witness. And using Astral, I was able to go back. Her spirit is still in the building, as well as the business owners. And her husband had passed on, and now he's at the building. Now, how crazy is that? Her husband sought her murderer for years. He ended up dying in 2010 of cancer, and he actually found her and reunited with her at the building where she was murdered.
That's cool.
So they are there as a family at the building where the murder occurred. So I was able to communicate with the husband.
Speaking of which, now that we are done, if you remember the details, go back and pass them over.
Oh, you think?
Yeah.
Okay.
Because, so, here's the deal. As this team works, and I get asked, well, how come you guys don't go to like Northern State and just pass those spirits over? We don't have time for that. And oftentimes, if we have a case such as this, we will not, and there's another case that was similar where it was a little boy, we won't pass these spirits over right away until we know we have enough information to close a case, to close, information if it was a crime, things like that. And then, once law enforcement's involved, they've got what they need, then we'll pass them over. Now, on that, do all spirits need to be passed over?
No.
No.
Excellent.
Well, it benefits them.
It does. But here's the thing. Not all of them need to be passed over. Not all of them want to be passed over. And I always use the case of, right here in Concrete, there is a 22-year-old that died in the 1900s. He's having the time of his life. He's not causing any harm. He's not causing any, there's no haunting per se. He's not messing with people. He doesn't want to go because he's having fun. So why would you pass him over?
So he can continue on.
But that's where you leave it up to the spirit.
But he has the option to come back.
He does, and we've explained that to him.
Oh.
But he doesn't want to go. So we're not going to force a spirit over that doesn't want to go, that's not causing a problem. You explain to him, yeah. And on that, so there's three different scenarios. One, you have a malevolent entity. There's multiple activity going on in the home. So once the team comes in, they'll find there's a malevolent entity or a very nasty spirit. One of the two that's there. That's basically holding other spirits hostage. They're too terrified to leave for whatever reason. Now, once you've removed the malevolent entity or the very nasty spirit, the other spirits in the home will cross over willingly. You don't got to do anything. Other times, I'm trying to think how to explain this. But other times, you can actually communicate with a loved one that's already passed on, especially in the case of children's spirits, where you'll contact the mother who's already passed on, and she will encourage her child to cross over. Because with child spirits, oftentimes they're scared. They may have died of an accident. They were doing something they weren't supposed to do. And now they're a spirit. And they know they're a spirit, but they don't want to cross because, well, one, they're scared of what's on the other side. And two, they know, their parents are going to be mad because they got killed doing something. They got hit by a car or chasing a ball or something of that nature. But once you get the mother to come over and encourage her child to cross, that's why some spirits are stuck as well. They're too scared to cross over. Let's see. Am I missing anything, Megan?
So the few crossovers that I've done, I have noticed there is an overwhelming unconditional love feeling. Like once you get the light to open, and yeah, I will say light to open, but I was trying to think if that was the right wording. But yes, So the few crossovers that I've done, I ask them if they see a light. They say yes. And what I can feel is an overwhelming unconditional love. And that feeling right there almost makes it so much easier for them to willingly cross, even if they're sitting there going, no, I don't want to do this. And it's an option. I show them the option. I ask them if they see the option, and once they do, it's almost like a tractor beam. They feel that feeling, and they willingly cross. I have actually not ever not successfully crossed someone. I've had a heck of a guy who refused to cross, but once I gave him the option, and I told him he could come back. If this is where he feels he needs to be, he could always come back. And I asked him if he saw a light, and he went.
And Rose is in the chat room. Rose is also on our astral team, by the way, and she says as an empath, well, actually, no, she's on our extended care team, disregard. But as an empath, you tear up because you feel that love and warms you to where you feel it in your chest. So,
yeah,
Rose is an empath, and she crosses spirits over as well. And she always has the option of jumping into the astral, but she prefers the extended care team. Where was I going with that thought? I'm always missing my thoughts. My
she's
thoughts
spot on.
disappear.
I mean, I fully agree with her on that.
Oh, but so the thing is, the angry spirits, and that's where I was going. So once they cross over, yes, they do have most of the time when you have a spirit that comes back after they crossed over, is when you have the client that they're talking about, they walk into the house and they know their grandmother's there, and they smell lilac. That was grandma's favorite scent. Or they smell cigars. And they don't smoke, but they smell cigars or tobacco or those are most often the spirits that come back from after having crossed over to be either guardians or check up on family. Not quite the same as guardians, but just to say hi. So let's see, spirits. Let's talk about shadows. Say again.
I got a question.
Go ahead.
Okay, and I'm not... this is a serious question. It may not sound like it, but it is. Have you ever tried to cross over a spirit who was kind of angry, didn't want to cross over, and he didn't see a light, but saw something else?
I don't know if he saw a light, but I've held up with a couple of them like that.
What's that?
Yeah, could you repeat that, Brent? I didn't hear you exactly.
Sorry. I've crossed a couple of them that I've basically forced a couple of them because they were angry and they just did not want to go. They refused to, and they're just stubborn old mules. And I don't know if they saw a light because it's like, you know what, I'm done dealing with you. You know what, get out of here, kind of thing.
Yes. So actually, recently I forcibly crossed someone, and because they were wreaking havoc, causing a whole type of situation, and astrally, I don't know if it's a dimension thing, but I literally sliced the dimension and booped them into it to cross them over. So I'm not sure if that was proper, but they left. They were land bound, and it was some entity that I really needed to get rid of because there were children involved in this case. So, I forcibly crossed someone to remove them.
Okay, now here's the part that you're going to think might be stupid.
Okay.
Or a joke. Not like, but instead of a light, did any of them describe an intense heat?
A what?
Say it again?
Yeah, could you repeat that?
An intense heat.
Oh.
Now you're getting where I'm going.
Okay.
Well, I'm not going there. Let's not say that.
Well, no. Actually, that's a valid question. My thing is when I forcibly crossed this malevolent entity that was land bound, there were portals involved, and the portal that I was dealing with in this closet had immense heat. And, I mean, it would make my face burn and my skin would tingle and everything. And once I was able to close the portal and then forcibly cross him, I wasn't concerned about how the hole that I sliced in the dimension felt. I just wanted him out, but he was using that portal. So whether he was coming from a place of intense heat, I'm not sure. But there was some heat factor. That's all I can tell you.
What you're saying is you told him where to go and how to get there.
I showed him the door.
And then threw him in.
I showed him the door, yeah.
Now, here's the thing. There are not just hundreds, but there are thousands of different planes. Is one of them what religion calls hell? It could be very similar. But is there a heaven or hell? No, that's debatable based on religion, and we're not going to go there.
Personal.
Yeah.
Right.
I see layers. And that's the best explanation I can give you. I see layers. There's layers of good. There's layers of bad. Stepping stones of good, I guess. But the more that I've listened to, it's validated because a lot of channelers have explained leveling systems. And I'm like, that's what I see. I see levels. So there's levels and layers.
Okay.
Now you guys will think I'm nuts.
Well, no, I'm just...
no.
He's absorbing.
What do you mean by level? Like Mario levels?
Okay.
Like, do you level up?
Okay, so from what I understand, it's your good, like your karma, your karmic pot, what you do in life kind of establishes what level of Mario you're going to land on. So if you automatically boop into level 7, I think you did good. But, it's okay if you're level 3 because everybody else that, has a level 3 pot. You guys can party. It's a level 3 pot, kind of deal. So I think it's a cumulative of your life. It's a karmic pot. That's the best I can describe it. And that it's way out there. You guys would have to have a download from my brain to understand it. How I
get what you're saying.
Okay,
I'm just saying, here come level 1.
Just remember, everything is energy. Your soul matrix is energy. So if you're putting out good energy, if you're a positive person, you don't have to be a positive person. But if your intent is always positive, then you're going to move on. If you're not getting a life's lesson, which personally, my personal opinion of deja vu means you've done it in a past life. And that goes into the reincarnation aspect. So if you find deja vu a lot, that means you might want to change something because you're not going to go on. You're not going to move on to the next lesson.
Oh, that's like Groundhog's Day, like today.
Exactly. 6 more weeks. 6 more weeks.
That's what I hear.
He saw his shadow. I saw it on the news. And we're going to plant a pumpkin patch.
If anybody's ever seen the Bill Murray movie, Groundhog Day is what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I love that movie.
Doing something over and over and over again, and that is a great movie.
Someone said today that they should just announce a sequel and re-release the original.
Right. My question is, how come Washington don't have a groundhog? Every year it's always, Punxsutawney Phil in Pennsylvania.
So Washington should have a groundhog because are you guys familiar with a place called Grand Mound?
Oh, yes. Right.
Down near Olympia?
Okay, yeah.
Pocket gophers everywhere. And actually, it's the largest structures, this side of the Mississippi. It is the coolest thing ever, and it's like a mecca for pocket gophers. So yeah,
No,
I'm like,
we do have a groundhog.
Do we?
Every state has a groundhog. There is some small town somewhere that has a groundhog.
But
that
they always use Phil
yes,
in
Phil
Pennsylvania.
Is the pop. That's because
then
like a
why
radio.
isn't our groundhog on the local news?
That's my question. Why don't we have our own
right.
groundhog on
King
Como
Five?
4? He's
I
not.
think we
And
should
'cause
just
it's Como
scrap
4.
the.
He's not popular
Yeah, I
enough.
think we should just, go with the pocket gophers. They're in abundance south of Olympia.
I
Okay,
think we should just admit that there's going to be 6 more weeks of winter every year. It's going to happen.
right. So we've talked spirits. Let's talk about Fae for a second. So,
Actually, Coop,
yeah.
one more real quick interruption, if you don't mind.
Uh-huh.
I got one question about, like, either hallowed ground or sacred ground or anything like that. What about spirits on that?
Like First Nations, Native American?
Yeah, and like churches and kind of anything like hallowed or anything sacred.
So, anything sacred,
Especially-
again, that is dictated by religion. When it comes to that, when it comes to sacred space, when you're talking Native American, if we have a haunting on, and that comes through the historical perspective. You always look at the historical background of the location.
Okay. Yeah.
So, what I try to do is contact or find out who the local tribe is that may have owned that property, and try to find somebody that can go from the tribe to appease the spirits. Because, not to sound rude, but a native spirit is not going to listen to a white man.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
So when you're looking at that, you try to get someone native to handle property that's
Have you tried?
possibly past tribal. Say
Right.
again?
Tried starting with an apology for smallpox? Just a question.
Say again?
Have you tried starting with an apology for smallpox?
So oftentimes from the astral's perspective, if they can respectfully contact the tribal spirits, sometimes they will listen.
Rock on.
We've had that happen before. And then they'll actually turn around and be guardians and handle the spirits that are causing the problems. We've actually had that happen. So it's a case by case, like every case is. And again, we're not experts in this. There's no such thing as the expert. We learn something new every case we do. I want to clarify that. There's no such thing as an expert in this field. But every entity, and we might in about 20 years write a book, an entity classification book based on what we've seen, because I'm still confused what the ape-looking thing with fangs and no carver was. that was unique. In fact, Sarah was on that case. So, anything else on spirits?
I was gonna chime in and just a couple more things about like what would be like symptoms of a haunting, like cold spots. You feel watched, an uneasiness in certain rooms, being woken up randomly throughout the night, usually in the early morning hours between like 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. with no explanation. Glints out of the corner of your eyes. I know we mentioned orbs, but something that I've personally seen is colored orbs on a set object. like there was an orange orb on my kitchen cabinet repeatedly. Like we couldn't explain it. And once we acknowledged it, it would zoop away. And everybody in the house saw it. Shadows. Your cat or dogs, any of your animals, even your ferret, staring very intently.
Or getting picked up and thrown. We've had cases like that before, too.
Or something like that. I mean, I know we didn't cover the myriad of everything that would be classified as symptoms of a haunting. So I didn't know if we wanted to go into that, but once you started talking, I'm like, oh, there's that, and then we just kind of rolled right along, and I'm like, we'll come back to it.
Well, actually, so we have 10 minutes left before our break, so let's go into the signs and symptoms, so you got electrical anomalies, and that would be your lights coming on and off. That would be something worked 1 second and it didn't. The toaster. And again, you look for the mundane on all electrical type. But bear in mind the paranormal in all aspects, whether it's Bigfoot, whether it's UFOs, whether it's spirits or other entities, manipulate the paranormal, which is one reason I don't jump right off the bat with using apps when it comes to an investigation, because apps are electronic. They can be manipulated. Not saying don't look at apps. I want to clarify. If you can take that app, that spirit box, and you can vet the information that's coming through that spirit box, like the name Roger comes through, and Roger is a name that popped up that used to live there, or Roger's a family member that passed on, things of that nature. If you can vet your electronic information, then I would call it valid. But just remember, with the paranormal, electrical anomalies are common. Battery draining. If you've got batteries, if you just put brand new batteries in your EMF meter, and you walk into a location and all of a sudden they're drained, then you've got something.
Yes, and same with cell phones in a resident. In a residential setting, when we did boots on the ground, and we went to the client's house, and they actually said, oh, hey, by the way, we got to keep our phones on the chargers all the time. Right. Well, there was a portal right there, and it was like a huge energy drain. Simple fix, close the portal. I don't know if their cell phones improved, but that was one of the things that they noticed is constant drain on their cell phone. And these were elderly individuals. So, to explain that to them, that is a possibility, it just kind of, good exchange of information kind of made me feel good, about what we do. And, there's a remedy for that. Let's, get the house fixed, stop inviting spirits in, and move forward.
Well, and the other thing on a case we did is the doorbell was ringing at the same time every day, and they disconnected the doorbell, and it was still ringing. No, it wasn't even connected, but the doorbell was still ringing at the same time every day. And electronic phenomena is a big indicator, along with the knocks, along with footsteps, along with seeing apparitions, seeing shadows. And we'll talk about shadows here shortly, probably the second hour. And
that door thing?
Say again?
That door thing? You know what I would try with that? If you know the exact time that doorbell rings, 2 minutes before, I'd go and open the door and leave it open.
No, you don't want to let them in.
I want to see if it still rings.
Yeah, it's true.
But you still don't want to let them. You don't want to invite them in. I mean, sometimes
they know who to call to do.
Sometimes they'll come in anyway.
You never know. Maybe
they'll see that invitation. Especially if it was Faye. Faye would just walk on in. And we'll get to Faye. Second hour. So, yeah, agreed. Scratches. When it comes to the physical issues, you got scratches, you got bruising, you've got the feeling of your hair being brushed, the feeling of a hand on your shoulders. Sometimes we've had cases where the blankets were pulled. What else you got, Megan?
Oh, clients pinned down, pinched.
Those are severe.
Yeah. I had a very severe case, so
or hands around your neck.
I actually had a really rough case with a client, and she went through a gamut of abuse from a spiritual attack, and tried to mitigate that the best we could. But yes, there was choking. It followed her to work. There was no reprieve for this client, and I'm just kind of having a throwback moment because everything was applicable in her case, and it was very overwhelming to deal with. And I think I called all hands on deck for that one. But she's recovering, thank goodness. But whispers, implanted thoughts, and feeling compelled to do something that you would not normally do.
Usually with that, you're delving into the realm of attachments.
Yes.
And we'll hit attachments because I think that one's
okay.
important.
Attachments are later. Okay, so we're just on hauntings.
Right. We'll definitely we'll hit attachments in the second hour, and not to leave people hanging. But we're not going to hit protection because it's a whole other area, and we'll hit protection next week when we have a 3-hour show. Because we can do 2 hours of possessed items, objects, and wanted to get Ross Ellison on that show, but he's busy, unfortunately. He's a prime speaker on haunted toys. But we'll hit paranormal protection, how to keep haunted items from coming into your home, or you go to the antique store, you buy a new cabinet, and it's got an attachment to it. How to take care of it before it gets put in your home. But that'll be next week. But folks, watch your animals. Dogs, cats, they all see in the fourth dimension, which you can't see. They have a higher rate of senses. They can hear, they can smell. They know if something's in your home. If you find your animal following something down the hallway or looking at the ceiling,
or running away from it.
Oh, yeah, that too.
Yeah.
That too.
What about cold spots?
Okay, so cold spots. So scientifically, and correct me if I'm wrong here, scientifically, so for a spirit to manifest, it's got to pull all the energy around its air to manifest. And it takes a lot of energy to do it. But that actually is what causes the hot or the cold spot. So what we have on Boots on Ground is a digital thermometer, and people get surprised because a lot of the equipment we use is actually construction equipment. An EMF meter, electricians use. A digital thermometer, things like that. They actually use it for electricians, for construction workers. It's common equipment. So I have a dual reading thermometer, and I can shoot the laser across the room. If there is a variation of I usually go with 5 degrees, then you might have something. But what you have to look at for the mundane is there a heater vent, or is there a fan going? Is the furnace on? Because that can cause a variation, obviously. And if you're shooting your laser and it's going over a heater duct, then the initial temperature is hitting the far wall, but there's a deviation because there's heat blowing on it, or an air conditioner blowing on it. But that's how we tell if there's a hot or cold spot. Is we'll shoot a digital thermometer across the room, and look for a variation in the two temperatures. So, good question and good point is, hot and cold spots. What else we got? So, electrical anomalies, batteries drained, physical marks, hair being pulled, bruising. Walls bleeding. Never encountered that one. Gotta say.
I saw it in a movie once.
I would be taking pictures.
I saw that once down in Arizona.
Really?
Now, you know what?
Yes.
I would love to see a wall bleeding because I would get a sample of that blood and get it to Markham ASAP.
Yeah. We determined it to be a pipe in the wall that had rusted, and there was a residual leak from far, further up the line, and the rust was actually coming through the wall. So, walls bleeding. It was an isolated spot, but these people actually put new drywall up, and then this blood spot came back from the ceiling. And we investigated, and it turned out to be rusty pipe and the rust was further up, so.
She hides like the moon. She's going away. She's feeling alone. She never looks back. She never looks back. She never looks Demons are calling back to your bed, and they're calling out your name. Demons are calling back to your bed. Demons are calling back to your bed, and they're calling out your name. Demons are calling back to your bed.
Check out Night Dreams website at www.nightdreamstalkradio.com.
You can advertise your business on Night Dreams Talk Radio, and you will be heard worldwide. Why not contact us at nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com. If you would like to hear Night Dreams Talk Radio on your local radio station, let them know. Tell them to check out www.nightdreamstalkradio.com, and thank you. Eric Cooper, S4 Radio, on Night Dreams Talk Radio Network, gets deep into the paranormal.
Welcome back to S4. Tonight we're talking entity types, what constitutes a haunting. So I hope you're all enjoying tonight's show. You can also find the archives at our Spreaker site and on the S4 YouTube channel for all the shows you missed for the last 2.5 years. Anyway, back to the show. So, as we're talking here, I've got these notes. We're going to talk about some of the dangers of the paranormal as well. And then next week we'll actually talk how to alleviate them. I want to, Michael, Is it me
Yes.
or are UFOs on the rise? I mean, we're seeing daily activity, actually, especially in the Bellingham area.
Well, yeah. As you know, Peter Davenport's National UFO Reporting Center seems to be going haywire lately with all the new reports that are being reported and interesting reports. It's just, the orange fireballs are just wreaking havoc around. People see them streaking across the sky and not necessarily even landing, like a meteorite would.
Mm-hmm.
A triangle series of lights are very popular. And different colors lights. Matter of fact, Peter was mentioning on Night Dreams Talk Radio last night about, just a few hours ago, let's put it that way, about different colored lights, actual yellow lights that were anomalous. And normally you don't see yellow. You will see maybe orange. Of course, red, green, and those kinds of things in strange formats. But yellow lights were kind of interesting. And then he was also mentioning of an alien robot entity sighting out in Federal Way, Washington, on the campus of the Weyerhaeuser Company. A woman walking her dog late at night, running across actually some multicolored lights hovering over the tree level in the woods on the Weyerhaeuser campus there. And then below that came out of the woods some kind of all she could explain it was some kind of a robot-looking entity that tried to communicate with her through some kind of an electronic or metallic kind of voice, she said. And this was just a couple days ago, actually. So fascinating stuff happening in this UFO, UAP, unidentified aerial phenomena area right now.
Huh. Yeah, I'm curious about that one. You get so many theories about alien races, and I wish Keith was in right now to hear that report. They have technology, but so many people, the Greys they're actually a robot. No, they're not. The Greys they're their own race. I've never encountered an abductee that described a robot coming into their home to take them to a ship. It's always been a living entity, or a living being.
Or not unless you talk with Calvin Parker. Do you remember that Pascagoula, Mississippi case?
Yeah.
In 1974, he basically stated that they kind of looked like the Michelin Man, kind of a robot-looking thing. That's an old case, but it's a very other interesting thing with potential entities that are not maybe living, but maybe some kind of a robot. But I agree with you, though.
You just reminded me of a story in Germany, actually. So I lived. My army housing was in a town callad Bad Windsheim, and we lived above a guest house, in which a guest house is a pub, and awesome little pub. I think it was a Bad Windsheim Cafe or something like that, and great beer. But we were friends with all the Germans that hung out there, because when you're stuck in a spot for 3 years, you get to know the locals really well. And they knew I was into UFOs. They knew I was studying this back in the 90s. And we said goodbye to our friend, and he left. And we didn't see him for like 3 months. I swear, 3 months. We finally ran into him one night, and he said, "Oh my God, I was walking home down the sidewalk." And if you've ever been to Germany, to a small town, you don't have to have a car because there's sidewalks everywhere. But he was walking home, and he encountered what he said was an alien, and it looked like the Michelin Man. And he ran.
Oh my gosh!
And so, yeah, you just said the Michelin Man, and it reminded me of that story. But he vowed he was never going to drink from that point, and he didn't. It terrified the man so bad, he stopped drinking. Now, I've never heard of a German that didn't drink. I mean, they take lunch breaks, and they have a 2-beer limit at lunch. It doesn't matter what their job is. So for a German to stop drinking, yeah, it must have terrified him pretty bad. But yeah, he described it as looking like a balloon creature, and it looked like the Michelin Man. But so why do you think UFOs are on the rise right now? Do you have a theory on that? Does anybody have a theory on that?
Well, I was just going to mention that. Very, very good. I mean, the whole idea of disclosure happening so quickly now and being talked about in the mainstream media, I think we on the UFO I-Team have actually found that people are coming out of the closet now and wanting to talk about their experiences because they see it on the mainstream media. They hear these reports. And so they say, well, hey, maybe it's good time for me to talk about what happened to me. And that's our theme basically on the UFO I-Team is tell us your story. And people are doing that right now.
Now, is there a way for you to go vet or verify the story?
Well, that's basically what we do. We're, a highly educated group of field investigators with different expertise. So we typically will try to travel to those UFO, UAP hotspots and gather information, scientific proof, or whatever we can to determine whether these are real sighting reports, whether they're real entities on the ground, whatever's going on there. So, my gosh, 2018. By the way, they call 2018 at this point the year of the UFO. That was basically, starting from the December article about New York Times coming out confirming the existence of UFOs by the Pentagon and the Department of Defense. And that was in 2017. But then the rest of 2018 was nothing but nonstop, slow rolling disclosure.
I think 2019 is going to blow 2018 out of the water when it comes to the sighting side, though. It's already started.
Oh, you got it. Exactly.
I think you're right, though. I think 2018 was the year that everyone got their minds opened up, and now they're looking. So 2019's got more reports coming out. All right, so yeah. I want to talk about kids. Moving on. And this is mostly directed towards parents, and I want you guys to chime in. But kids, why are kids at the top of our triage tier? There's many reasons. One, kids are open. You usually close off towards adulthood or towards teenage years, and you don't see as much. But kids are a target for spirits and entities because of the fact that they're open. And so when your kid starts getting terrified of a certain room of the house at the age of 3 or 4, and they've never been terrified of that room before, a lot of parents will say, oh, it's just a 4-year-old acting out. And that's true. Sometimes it is. But when they start describing or pay attention to their artwork, pay attention to their drawings, and just pay attention. I think that's the biggest thing parents need to do is listen to their kids. Communicate. Keep that open line of communication with them.
Absolutely.
So
definitely pets and kids. Megan, what do you got to throw in there?
Oh, man. Female adolescents. I know because between the ages of about 11 and 14 for me, I had an increase in sensitivity. And we just moved, but I picked a room, and I really loved the room that I picked, but soon after I became terrified of the room because I was having things pop up in the room. And the more that I looked into it, female adolescence has a trigger, and it could actually cause things to be drawn to you, spikes in poltergeist type activity, all that sort of really core haunting type definition stuff. And there's a lot of information out there, and I'm actually working a case dealing with a female adolescent, and it's very interesting because there's some emotional stuff that I'm hitting on that is causing the majority of the paranormal experience that the mother is reporting.
And, you hit so since you brought it up, we'll bring up poltergeists for our next area of looking at. So a lot of times, poltergeists, they can be caused by spirits or entities. There is that, but the first thing we ask clients anytime they talk about something being moved or something thrown is, do you have any adolescents in your home? And the way to fix that is oftentimes grounding. No, don't put them in their room. Don't take the TV away. I know that's where you were going with that. No,
not that type of grounding.
Grounding the energy. Because when they hit that a certain age limit, and I think you pegged it with 11 to 14, they're full of energy. And if you don't have that energy grounded, their emotions will take that energy and manifest it in ways you don't want to deal with. So most of the time we can help the client with that, with grounding. And I'm not going to go into how to ground. We can talk about that next week. But the basic grounding, you're taking energy, putting it into the earth, and pulling energy from the earth back into you. That is a simple grounding. We'll go into more detail next week. But once you've grounded the energy of the adolescents, and usually we teach the parents how to do it so they can teach the kids, then usually the problem will stop. Now on the team, on the extended care team, we actually, and I got beat up about this last week. How dare you have a minor on your team? Well, she doesn't go on cases. That's what you need to understand. She is usually a telephonic peer. She is there for strictly peer support because kids won't talk to an adult stranger. They're trained not to. So they're not going to talk to the investigators that they're dealing with the issue. They're going to talk to another kid, which is why we have a minor, a 12-year-old, actually I think she's 13, on the team that has dealt with paranormal her entire 13 years of life. So she knows what those kids are going through, and she is the perfect peer to talk to them. And she has parental consent for being on the team because her grandmother is on the team as well. So having a peer child on the team is ideal when we're dealing with child cases. Or I'll rephrase that, family cases involving children. But go into what exactly is a poltergeist, Megan?
Oh, man. Okay, so per the definition, it's a German word meaning noisy ghost, correct?
Exactly.
So, noisy ghost, but what we would classify as poltergeist wouldn't necessarily be noises. It's not limited to noises. You think about the word noise, you're going to hear banging, clapper, knocking, words, voices, whispers. It's not only that, it is objects moving, objects disappearing. We have actually dealt with a poltergeist activity where a coffee pot flew off the counter at a restaurant. So that is what a poltergeist is. Something that can manifest enough energy in our realm to actually manipulate physical objects and cause something like a noise. So that is what I would call a poltergeist. If anybody would love to add to it, be my guest.
No, you pretty much hit it on the head. Anyone else got anything to add to poltergeist?
Slimer.
Slimer.
I hope we see Slimer next year.
Hey.
What?
No laughing. That's true. That's what he was.
It is.
But I hope we see Slimer and the new Ghostbusters coming out.
Unless we have food at a party.
Well, yeah. And the food's gone.
Then he needs to stay out.
So, yeah. The first thing you look at with the poltergeist case are there adolescents. If there aren't adolescents, then that's where the astral team comes in and identifies what else could be there. So let's talk about shadows. I hear crickets.
What about them?
What do you mean by shadows?
Yeah.
Okay.
What do you mean?
Are we talking shadow people? Just shadows?
Shadows are a sign or symptom of a haunting, are they not?
Yes, they are.
He's like your shadow?
So shadows, like Megan said, shadows can be a shadow entity, which is a class of its own. I don't know a whole lot about the specifics of them. Maybe the team does. But shadows can also be spies. And we've encountered that as well on cases where the magical community can send spies in for whatever reason. You might have cut somebody off and they're a magical person. And so they'll send, or you might have flirted with their husband not intentionally. But they're essentially spies. You can banish them. You can trace the energy of the individual that sent them and deal with them in a different way. But there is also an alien race called the Rogue. They are based out of California. They have bases in Italy and off the coast of Germany, which are very ruthless. They are a violent race. They kill. If you see the shadow, you're pretty much going to be done. And those are where people disappear. But they are the ones that have top hats and or cloaks. Not to be mistaken for the Hat Man, because that's a whole other entity. But the Rogue is only active, well, we're in the middle of the peak of activity, because they're active from January to March of every year. Very unique race, and isolated in location. But do you know much about the Shadow Man? Brent or Megan?
Not me personally, really. I haven't really.
The Shadow Man? No, I do not know the Shadow Man. And I don't think I want to.
So, yeah, Cole, you still with us?
Yeah, so you mean shadows that shouldn't be there, that don't belong to a person?
Exactly. And usually with usually with the shadow, yes, they move on their own, and usually you see them in the corner of your eye.
Yes.
You will very seldom these shadow entities you will very seldom actually see in front of you. Occasionally you will. But usually you'll see the shadow moving in the corner of your eye, and you'll kind of turn your head and you'll actually see the shadow.
Yep.
But all of these malevolent entities we treat in the same manner. We go in, we identify it, first of all. What is it? Where did it come from? And then we destroy it. That's the bottom line. So it really doesn't matter what kind of entity it is or where it came from. We're a combat team. We do combat.
Some of them can be talked down without actually having to combat them.
They can.
And it's actually nicer doing it that way. That way, you're not ruining the team's reputation, I guess you could say, because they're not going to say, "Oh, be careful of this team. They'll just go balls out and kill you."
Well, that's not always a bad thing either. But No,
Oh, yeah,
like
true.
I said earlier in the show, we don't just roll in and destroy whatever we see. We try to find the root cause, where it come from, why is it here? If it's just confused and is at the same time wondering how it got to our plane, then we help it get home. Same with aliens. We've done that with aliens before too, and I think I talked about that last week or the week before. So we're not going to go into that. But no, we do try to get to the root. Try to figure out why it's here, where it came from, and help it get home, unless it's combative. If it's combative, then we just go to combat and remove it. So anything more on shadows? Because I know we didn't hit on it too much. They're kind of a hard race, if you want to call them, to figure out. Some people have more theories on that. We see them mostly as a malevolent entity, non-demonic, and treat them as such, unless again we can figure out where they came from.
There is one that everybody knows. Everybody on the team knows here.
What's that?
That's you, because every time you shadow a case.
Yeah, okay, but that's not a shadow. That's just that's just me.
Just kidding.
So let's talk about Fae. Fae are on the rise. And I think Fae are on the rise because, well, and this is where you really need to watch your pets too. Because your animals, and what's kind of cool is your animals, if we're on a case in your home, they will actually pick up on the astral team. Because we've actually had cats and dogs follow the team around. And I'll be on chat with the client. The client's going, well, my dog just ran down the hall. And all of a sudden, Tony, for example, will pop up and say, oh, don't worry about it. I'm in the hall. And your dog's following me around. Perfect example of how your pets pick up, non-normal energies in your home. But Fae don't like cats. We had one case where the cat was actually picked up. You can see it picked up in the video. And come to find out, they had done remodeling in the bathroom. And for whatever reason, the Fae liked the bathroom. We had another case where they did landscaping. They had a fairy altar laid out, but they didn't give anything to the Fae. And, well, that right there is... You don't do that. If you put an altar out to something, you give it something. That's a good way to anger something. And then there's the ones that you don't poke with sticks. Ain't that right, Brent?
I was just beginning.
Oh. Yeah, I don't see Joe in the chat room, but Joe would get a kick out of the pointy sticks. Yeah, don't poke Fae with pointy sticks. You just don't do that. That's a good way to get them mad at you.
It was funny though. I mean, you're
you would have to be there.
So our new house has a giant stump right in front of the driveway, like right beside it. And my wife, Kayla, wants to put in a fairy garden.
Well, that's great.
But she's not the greatest at keeping up on those type of things.
Okay, so here's what you do. You put your fairy garden out. You set up an altar for the Fae if you want. And you incorporate the family into it. Tell your daughter to go out and feed the Fae. She takes some cakes and some ale, or some mead, or tea, and leaves it out for the Fae. That keeps them happy. It keeps your property guarded, and everything's hunky-dory.
How often do you do this?
You'll know. Weekly.
Oh, great.
There is dark Fae, though.
There is indeed. The Banshee, the Banshee is something different. So you got
I'm just talking about dark Fae.
So if you go by Celtic lore, you've got the Sealy Court, the Unsealy Court. The Unsealy Court is where the dark Fae come from.
Okay. Because, yeah, got to make sure you've got the right Fae, because I've dealt with 2 locations that had dark Fae, and they are not pro-human at all.
Not by any means, no.
No.
Some Fae races hate and despise the human race, and they are here to do nothing more than create havoc of the human race. So if you find your home is infested with dragonflies, that is a sign of Fae. If you see flickers of light in the corner of your eye and you know you don't have migraines, because again, anytime we have a case, we always look up medical history. If you have migraines, that can come across as Fae, because you'll have the sparkly images in the corner of your eye. If you have things missing and they turn up in other locations, that can be either Fae or a spirit. There's a lot that goes into sign and symptomology of cases that we do. So have you ever seen... So, real quick, Fae is an umbrella term of many different races, of which fairy is one race of Fae. Fae can include elementals, it can include gnomes, trolls, many other races. I wouldn't classify dragons as Fae, although dragons are dragons. But, you know, some folks listening to the show are going to go, oh, wow, they believe in fairies? Yeah, actually, fairies are very real. So are dragons. So are gnomes and trolls. You will find them mostly in wooded areas, which is why we're going to be doing...
Does Fae include gremlins?
Yeah, I think gremlin would be an aspect of your dark Fae.
Okay.
But they're in another plane. You usually won't find them in our plane unless somebody either conjured them, they came through a portal. Portals are doorways to many different realms. So let's see. Orbs can be Fae. If you go in the photo album, I believe it's an FMP or at Forest Moon Grove, you will find where I actually got pictures of the elementals leaving a ritual that we did in Iraq. So what else you got for us, Megan?
Let's see. So we've done poltergeist. We've done Fae. Do we want to talk about cryptids? Or
No,
cryptids fall under haunted?
Actually, March 30th, we're talking all cryptids. And we have Butch Wachowski coming on the show.
We'll save it.
Attachments. Okay. We need to talk about attachments.
Attachments.
So
yeah.
You'd be surprised. I'd say 9 out of 10 teams that are in this field don't believe in protection. And you might say it's a high number, but ask random teams if they believe in protecting themselves. And I've heard it on Spaced Out Radio. Protect myself from what? There's nothing that can touch me. Okay. We'll be hearing from you. And I'm going to clarify. Protection is important, but protection also isn't a fail-safe for everything. Sometimes you can be protected and you can still get an attachment. So some of the signs of an attachment, real common is physical pain, because you'll actually have physical pain where the attachment is, which is oftentimes on the lower back, the back of the neck. You'll have confusion. You'll have dizziness. What else is there?
Stomach. I've noticed a lot of stomach and even throat type attachments. An attachment that would be almost like a scarf, and it wraps around the head, which causes the confusion, the dizziness, migraines, and then also, like, people have reported to me, like, hard time swallowing or acid reflux when they have a throat-type attachment. And then with the stomach attachments, of course, anything gastrointestinal is going to fall into that category. And like just tonight, I removed a huge stomach attachment, and I didn't even know that this client was suffering these ailments until I took a look at her and could see her in astral and saw she was just, it looked like she was wearing a tire around her midsection because that's how thick the attachment was.
And Chris is in the chat room. Headache. Headache is common.
Mm-hmm.
Again, folks, if you just have one or two of these symptoms, does not mean you have an attachment necessarily. Yeah, because I mean, if you have migraines, we always look at the medical or the environmental. Because if you're dehydrated, you're going to have a headache. If you have migraines, obviously it might be a migraine. So oftentimes you'll find these attachments are attached to chakra points. I'm not going to go into the chakra points because that's just, no, we're not going to deal with the chakra points. But so chakra points are energy centers of the body. I'll leave it at that. Attachments are often, again, energy. They're drawn to your energy. If you're not protected, if you're not shielded, grounded, you don't have the common stone that our team uses is black tourmaline. I don't recommend hematite for grounding when it comes to stones because hematite is a very basic, very weak grounding stone. There's better, we'll go into that next week, but there's better grounding stones than hematite. We do carry it. We do give it to clients because most clients, unless they have abilities, there's better grounding stones out there. Have you ever heard of... Say again?
I'm sorry. Can I... Is it all right?
Yeah.
Okay. I see a really good question here in the Spreaker chat. Rose, it's how do you tell the difference between medical and attachments? Sorry. I have a long list of medical problems, but I'm an empath too. As such, we are prone to attachments.
So
that's a good question.
It is. So basically, if there's a correlation, we will have the client, if they haven't already, go see a doctor to rule out medical issues. And then again, the astral team can see attachments via the astral. So, you know, we can touch both bases that way. When it comes to empaths or psychics or mediums or anyone with abilities, if they're not grounding and shielded, then they're failing themselves. Because anyone with abilities needs to be grounded and shielded at all times. It comes with the nature of their gifts. So that's just... So Kayla's asking too, are all attachments bad or can there be good ones? No, if there's an attachment, it's bad. I've never heard of a good attachment. Think of attachments like a parasite. If you're feeling tired all the time, if you have no energy, there could be something sucking your energy out, or you're just not getting sleep, or you have sleep apnea like me. You know, again, you rule out the mundane, the medical, the psychiatric, and then if there's anything left, it might be paranormal. Or you have something paranormal working with those problems. So, have you ever heard of a good attachment, Megan or Brent?
Brent, go ahead.
Okay, thank you. Best I can say is there have been people so, like, there's one case I had that she was so, like, used to it, I guess you could say, that she kind of didn't want to be separated from it. That's the best I can say.
That's not a good attachment, though.
No, that's what I mean. In other words, they're all negative. I mean, it's...
Right,
That's the best example I can come up with.
Yeah.
No.
There's attachments.
Yeah, I have never seen a good attachment. I've never seen a good attachment.
Attachments are parasites.
There was one... Yes, and there was one client who argued with me and said that her attachment was probably her grandmother. And I had to tell her grandmother would not attach in the way that she had this attachment.
No.
And once I explained to her that her grandma had crossed over and her grandma does visit her, she was willing to let that attachment go, knowing that it was no longer her grandmother. But so she sat there and almost fed this negative, parasitic attachment, believing it was her grandmother.
Right.
So
exactly, especially a family member.
Yes. But no, I've never seen a positive attachment, because your loved ones are not going to attach to you to harm you. They will come to you in a spiritual way, but they will not attach to you because they know how to find you.
Now,
you've got energy threads. They're not going to physically attach to you.
Chris brings up a point that I want to address, and she says even alien researchers need protection, and that goes with electronic devices. You can get an attachment through electronic devices very easily, which is why
Thank you, Chris.
Everybody on this team is trained in grounding and shielding and paranormal protection, because we've had cases where even the extended care team talking to clients through a chat have been attacked. So, you know, for the ones that think paranormal protection, and these are the same ones that go, well, prove the paranormal. Well, you know what? Coming from the perspective of this team, as emergency responders, we know without a doubt, that's why we don't go after evidence, that the paranormal exists, is very real, and hands down, you need to be protected if you go into any known hotspot. And, you know, I know one person that went to Northern State, for example, and their child got an attachment, which we had to remove. And there's various ways of removal. Usually we do it through the astral team, but you can also do it physically in essence. And sometimes we've actually taken attachments and trapped them in a crystal. Crystals are great for trapping. And then we threw it in the bay, threw the crystal in the bay, actually. So, let's see. How do you guys remove attachments through astral?
With a pointy stick.
Not with a pointy stick. But
That would hurt.
Actually, sometimes.
Oh.
I had the last one, Megan. Go ahead.
Go into briefly how you remove attachments through astral.
Okay, so my first course of action would be to evaluate the type of attachment. I have had sticky, tarry type attachments that I have to physically remove. Pull them off physically or burn them off. Yes, burn them off with like CT finger. I've done that. There has been an attachment that almost looked like a goblin, this little trolley goblin thingy, and I asked it to leave. So if it's some type of creature, I actually ask it to leave. If it does not leave, then I will resort to forcibly removing it. So that's what I do. But I don't quit until the attachment's gone. And if I can't remove it myself, my team is willing and able. And I've called them in many times. I've called Brent. I've called Dolly. They both came in, and helped me remove the attachment. So, again, teamwork, very crucial.
And what's interesting too is we've actually had cases where we had alien abductees that had multiple experiences going on because they're being abducted by aliens. We stopped that, but they also had kind of like a worm. They were like parasitic worms from a different plane that were on them. So, again, attachments are parasites. We remove them the same way. And, it goes to show that the paranormal can work together, maybe not intentionally, but a lower vibration or a lower energy is a lower energy. And it is a draw to these things. And it goes together because not only is it a draw, but, once you get these attachments, you won't get your energy back up. We have to raise the vibration, remove the attachment, the spirit, whatever the problem that's going on in your home is, and then keep that vibration raised. And we're going to go into that again next week on how to keep your home cleansed. It goes along with the paranormal protection side of it. Because the key point is getting the client to the point where they've got their life back. They know how to protect their home. They know how to cleanse their home. And hopefully we won't get called back in. That's the overall goal with FMP.
Absolutely.
What are we missing? So we've hit poltergeist, we've hit fae, we've hit
We're missing mist.
Missing what? Mist.
We're missing mist.
Now that's some
I don't know. I'm outside right now. It's pretty misty.
Yeah, we're missing mist.
Mist is kind of cool to watch because, I've seen CTC cameras where a mist will come out of nowhere.
Yeah.
And almost like it's its own living entity.
Mm-hmm. I love it. It's really, really thick.
And they shapeshift. Now, I almost think mist is sometimes a shapeshifter.
Mm-hmm.
Because they don't seem intelligent. They aren't an intelligent design as a mist by itself. And Chris is in the chat room. So we got 15 minutes before the end of the show. Next week again, folks, you can hit us at 11 p.m. because we are moving from 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. And next weekend, next Saturday, is a team meeting. But February 16th, we are doing training. So for anyone local that wants to join the team, if you're in Skagit, Whatcom, or Snohomish counties, or I don't care if you're farther away, if you want to join the team and you want to drive that far, Burlington Library, 4 p.m., is our paranormal protection class. So Chris has an excellent question. Are energy vampires considered attachments, or their own thing? You know what? They're not attachments per se, but they are energy drainers. So they are still parasites. And they are all over Atlanta, Georgia. I've met them. And if you are a battery, then, oh my God, you're an energy vamp's best friend.
Exactly.
What do you know about energy vamps, Megan?
Oh, man. So I've dealt with some personally. Basically, they exist, and I've met real-life humans that have the characteristics of an energy vamp, and then I've also met them in astral, where they have been in spirit form, and they are literally sucking the life out of somebody who is very career-driven, vibrant, and then all of a sudden this person is like having medical issues and extremely fatigued, yet no medical results have said anything. Like, the doctor says she's fine. All I know is that it was incredibly hard to remove. My process for removing it was to actually use a mirror shield type thing around the client, and that way the energy vamp was kind of reflecting on itself. But again, that's protection side. So, that's my course of action. Is very effective. But the thing is, these entities do really suck in, and they get the life source out of humans. And they're, I was very intimidated to work with them because they start to drain you too. It's just not the client that you have to worry about. It's yourself when you're working with them, because it's not on one person. So I wouldn't say an energy vamp is necessarily an attachment, Chris. I would say it's going to affect everybody within its own area, because that's my experience.
Just don't get sucked into that drain.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Brent, I mean, do you have anything to add? Because I know that you worked with an energy vamp.
Yes. Sorry. I didn't actually work with an energy vamp. I just kind of was witness to one. And it was
Witness. Okay.
Yeah, I actually physically witnessed a gal that was drained by an energy vamp, and it was quite the change.
Yeah.
She was all bubbly, all chippy, and happy. Blah, blah. Boy, I can't talk. And one day, next day, this woman came in and left the energy vamp there, and next day I saw her, she was just completely blah, and just, she looked about 40 years older than what she is, and they can do a number on you.
Okay,
Yeah.
so actually Rose and Caleb both have excellent points. Living people could be energy vamps, and that's quite often the case. And most of the time they do know what they're doing. They know they're energy vamps. They enjoy it. It's kind of like an erotica to them.
Yeah.
And then Kayla brings up, can someone be an energy vamp and not know they are? And that's common too. These are people that when you're around them, you feel just blah. You feel tired when you're around a certain person because they're pulling the energy off you. Sometimes they do know, that they're energy vamps. Sometimes they don't. And these are people that need to ground. Again, grounding, solves a lot of the problems. Because with the people that don't know they're pulling energy from people, they just need to ground their own energy. And they won't feed off other people's energy.
Yeah, and no, Kayla, I do know somebody personally who does not realize she's an energy vamp. And
So do I.
it is...
I think she has an idea.
Yeah, well, it is one of the most difficult relationships that I've had because I avoid this person like the plague. And inevitably, whenever I'm in her presence, it's a definite draw. I have to protect myself because I'm not going to say, like, hey, what's wrong with you? Do you know what you're doing? I mean, I don't know how to approach that situation. So I just have to practice self-protection in that case. But she's completely oblivious to what she's doing. Guaranteed.
Just so everyone knows now, Kayla is sitting here grounding.
We can help with that, Kayla. And again, on the 16th, we will be going over grounding, shielding, stones, herbs, paranormal protection in general, the dangers of the paranormal, things of that nature. Burlington Library, 4 p.m. Will be that class. And it's one of the required classes to be on the team. So,
Can I ask a question quick about the energy vamps?
Yeah.
So with that, when they start working on a person and start draining them, does that person almost act like an amplifier for them, where they are draining the people around that person as well?
Okay, say that one more time.
So let's say the energy vamp is draining a person of their energy. Is he also using that person as an energy amplifier to drain the people around that person?
That one, it's generally a specific attack.
Okay.
I honestly think it depends on the individual. If they're strong enough, they can. But it's generally a specific target.
But an energy vamp can, like, drain the room, if that's what you're asking. I don't know if it would be amplified through the main target, but from personal experience, I have had an energy vamp issue to where the whole room felt drained. So was somebody an amplifier? I'm not sure. Because I know with psychic attacks, you can have an amplifier. Because that person who's doing the psychic attack will seek someone out with an attachment and use them as an amplifier and, like, cast the attachment around the room, if that makes sense.
It does.
Okay.
Okay.
And yeah, there's some very nasty people out there that will do
There
this.
are. And they do.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
So we're coming down to about 7 minutes to the end of the show. And real quick, Cole, where can we find Statement of Sound DJ?
On Facebook at www.facebook.com/SOS DJ Pro.
Excellent. And Michael, where
Yes.
can we find UFOIT?
Well, UFOIteam.com on the internet. You can also find us on Facebook, which has got a lot of postings up there and a lot of videotape and extra, different kinds of things regarding UFOs and the paranormal that we've run across in the UFOI team.
Excellent. So just a reminder. So next week we're talking possessed items. You go to an antique store. You buy a dresser. You buy a doll, a toy. Can it have an attachment to it? Yes, it can. So we're going to go into that. Possessed items. We're going to go into a lot of paranormal protection for our listeners and help you take your home back and help you not to bring an attachment into your home because they can wreak havoc. Then we're going to go into the following week specific locations, specific hot spots, issues, eastern Snohomish and Skagit counties. And I've got a whole list of UFO sighting spots upriver and Darrington and Granite Falls. Granite Falls, I actually want to take the team up to and set up a community meeting with Granite Falls because they got so much activity going on up there and the whole area. That's what draws me to the mountains is the mystery of it. And in the Forest Moon Paranormal Library, I actually have 2 books from the 1800s and 1900s. And, some of it might be Bigfoot from folks back in that time era that encountered Bigfoot, but not everything. So you can find Forest Moon Paranormal on Facebook. Just look for Forest Moon Paranormal and join the group. Don't go to the page. I set the page up years ago before I knew about groups and the assets that could be used with the groups. Because I get clients that are asking for help in the page. I actually don't check the page that often. I focus on the group. And sometimes they actually, I do wind up getting to them. But make sure you join the group if you've got a paranormal issue, whether it's abduction, UFO sighting, Bigfoot sighting, you're being attacked by an entity you don't know what it is. But I want to thank our crew tonight. Cole Wig-Leitner, the FMP Culture and Lore Research Specialist, owner of Statement of Sound DJ Services. Brent Dodge, FMP Astral Team. Megan Gehring, the FMP Astral Team and Security. Michael Hall, our paranormal lawyer and founder of the UFOI team. So as always, you can catch S4 on Night Dreams Talk Radio every Saturday at 11 p.m. to 2 a.m. and KSVU 90.1 FM Saturdays from 10 to 12, our pre-recorded shows. And like I said, don't miss next week from 11 to 2 now when we discuss items and how to protect yourself. So we have 3 minutes. Y'all got any tips, pointers, anything to add?
Remember,
I do. Oh,
Yeah.
sharpen your stick. Okay, no, if you are dealing with any type of issue, things out of the corner of your eye, voices, odd feelings, it does not hurt to even ask us to check. So I'm just going to encourage people to, inquire within our FMP Facebook group and, reach out to us, because it never hurts to take a look. And, if there's something there, we can remedy it very quickly. If something is causing you discomfort in your life spiritually, it's not that hard to ask for help, and a lot of people don't.
No, and I want to clarify, not everything is pareidolia. People post pictures in the group, and they get a whole lot of comments from people in the group, and they get accused that it's just pareidolia. Sometimes it is. Not everything's paranormal. Sometimes it's lens flare. It's, a camera glitch, a reflection. Or it is just something that, So I have a rule of thumb. If I can't see it in the first 10 seconds, then I'm going to go with the pareidolia route. But I wasn't there when you took the picture. So if there's more to the story than just you taking a picture, then that needs to be obvious or stated. But yeah, like Megan said, it never hurts, regardless of how many pareidolia people you have out there, for the team to just jump in, take a real quick peek, find out what's going on, if anything, and then let you know. So on that note, have a great week, folks. See you next week. If you're in the group, I'll see you tomorrow. And y'all take care.
Yeah.
You can advertise your business on Night Dreams Talk Radio, and you will be heard worldwide. Why not contact us at nightdreamstalkradio@gmail.com.
Check out Night Dreams website at www.nightdreamstalkradio.com.
Do you have a paranormal story you want to share on